What you are about to hear is an excerpt from Prime On Demand, a Transformers podcast available on iTunes, Stitcher, or primeondemand.com. This is from episode 1. The topic for this episode, Transformers Prime, Predacons Rising. Well, now it's time to get into the main segment of the episode. This will be a review/fan commentary over the new movie Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Predacons Rising. That's a mouthful. Personally, this whole Beast Hunters business, Season 3 being called Beast Hunters and the movie being called Beast Hunters, there's no reason for it. Let's call it what it is. This is Transformers Prime Predacons Rising. Now, the time this episode is going up, this movie should have premiered on the Hub. It premiered October 4th, and the Blu-ray DVD combo pack is coming out on October 8th in America. Overseas, I'm not sure, I can't say. Now, the features on that DVD, I'm hoping it does have a commentary, official commentary with the writers, director, producers, actors, somebody. Season 1 had a commentary. I believe Season 2 did not. Season 3 will have a commentary that comes out in December. But for our purposes here, this will be a commentary/review of Predacons Rising. Now, as I said earlier, this is supposed to be the end of the Prime series, taking place right after the end of Season 3, which had a terrific ending, the episode Deadlock. And this is the second animated movie in Transformers history. Well, third if you count the Beast Wars movie that came out in Japan, but I don't because it's not available anywhere. So after the 1986 movie, the very first movie, this is the second animated movie, despite the fact that it's only being shown on TV and direct-to-video, not any theaters, but we're not going to hold that against them. One thing I found odd about this movie was that it's only 66 minutes long, so it's the length of maybe 3 episodes. No, it is the length of 3 episodes. One animated episode is 22 minutes, so basically this is 3 episodes tacked together. Now, of course, it's not the same story arc as 3 episodes tacked together with the fake pauses for commercials that end up remaining on the DVD, the cliffhangers at the end of the first and second acts. And I'll give it to them, this is a good movie, but it's an odd choice calling it a movie when it's just the length of 3 episodes. Now, it used to be a good DTV movie would be 90 minutes. Now, with all these recent DC animated movies, which are hit and miss, but there have been several pretty good releases in that series, particularly Under the Red Hood. Lately, animated movies have been whittling themselves down from 90 down to 75 minutes, and now, taking out the credits, this movie is just an hour, which I find very odd. I mean, when it airs, it's going to be 90 minutes with commercials. If the recent trend in animated movies gets down to where it's under an hour, and they're still calling it a movie, there's going to be something terribly wrong with that. But we're not to that point yet. Another thing odd about this is that with those 3 other faux movie releases I mentioned earlier, Darkness Rising, One Shall Stand, and Dawn of the Beast, those are all more than 3 episodes long. The first one is 5 episodes tied together. The second one is 7 episodes tied together. And the third one is 4 episodes tied together. Now this one is the length of just 3 episodes. With this set of 4 quote-unquote movies, this is the shortest, but it's the only actual legit movie. I find that odd they didn't make it longer. And it'd be fine if it was a tight story that only needed 66 minutes to be told. But in my opinion, there was a lot of wiggle room there where they could have put in much more. There's not any flack, I think, where they could have cut stuff out. I think they should have been given this movie more time. The Hub should have made the airtime 2 hours, I guess, and let them have a full 90 minutes. Hell, 75 minutes would have been better, but I'd prefer a 90-minute movie. And I know it's asking for a lot more, and would have pushed the release date by a few months, but thinking of the lasting effect that would have had, a slightly better story told, I think would have been worth it. Now, the runtime, it being as short as it is, I don't know if that's the writers, the director, the producer, or if that's straight from the Hub telling them to make it this short. But as I'll say in the actual commentary, I think there's a lot of spaces where they could have developed a few scenes a little longer, could have added several things to make it a bit better. As I said, this is available for air on the Hub starting October 4th, and I'm sure they'll rerun it the next several days afterward. It may also be up on VOD, on iTunes for download. Check Amazon if you prefer downloading your media. Also, as I said, it's starting October 8th. It will be available on DVD or DVD Blu-ray combo pack. Alright, I got my drink here. My phone is on vibrate. I'm sorry if you hear that make noise during this. I got a copy of the film drawn up here on my laptop. You shouldn't be hearing any part of the movie on the recording here. If you hear any of it, I'll be very surprised. So I got this lined up here. Pause at the 1 second mark. The little family in the field is just barely visible at the top of the screen. So line it up with me here. You ready? 1 second mark. And hit play. And we're going. And all these little fireworks. And Hasbro. Remember that little triangle sphere logo they had from back when I was little? They used to tack on everything. And remember this, what's it called? Fireworks logo for later. Because I think it's going to come into play later. I need to turn this down. That's too distracting. Sorry if you heard those tabs. So here's the nemesis over, I assume, Icon. And who the hell built this Megatron statue? Was it Megatron? Is this Kaon? I mean, of course, I've already seen this movie before the recording, but I should have rewatched it to refresh myself. Just as an aside, I should have said this earlier, but if you're listening to this, I'm assuming you've seen the movie already. So spoilers in this podcast, there's no such thing as spoilers because I'm assuming you saw it before listening to this review/commentary. If you don't care about spoilers that much and you have not seen it, then by all means, go ahead. And again, if you want to watch the movie while listening to this, awesome. But you don't have to. If you've already seen it, you can go ahead and just listen to this. I'll be talking about the movie all the way through it, so you can just listen to my thoughts about the film if you don't feel like watching along with it. And here, Megatron's at the bottom of the ocean. I expect this is probably the Laurentian Abyss, as I said in Revenge of the Fallen. Although, putting him at the bottom of the ocean in that movie didn't work either. So, I don't know why at the end of Deadlock they didn't go back and try to find his body. That would have helped. Holy crap, this guy is big. Transformers Prime, Beast Hunters. And now oh no, they're not going to show Predacons Rising, because why would they? I expected they would have their own theme, something... Again, I enjoyed this movie a lot, but I expect one thing I wanted in the expanded time was more pomp and circumstance in this. It's the second animated movie in Transformers history. It's the first movie since Dark of the Moon. Again, it's just on TV and DVD, but again, I expected them, call up, oh, forgive me, Brian Tyler and Tyler Bates. I always confuse them. One of them did the Cybertron games, one of them did Prime. I expected he would do some kind of big, flourishing orchestral score for like 5 minutes or some opening credits. But, this will work. Again, I have a problem with that whole Beast Hunters thing. Anyway, I'm glad they have these little metaphorical, astral space. Where was it that Rhinox went in Beast Wars to try to find Optimus's astral body? I thought that was a nice touch, and it seems like kind of along the same lines of that. Trying to grab his soul, his spark, put it back in his body. But they're not doing that here. Unicron, with the blood of Unicron, the Dark Energon running through Megatron's veins, he's able to take control of Megatron's body here and kind of reformat Megatron's body, give it some Unicron-esque flourishes. And I'm glad they have these little metaphorical scenes between Unicron, and Megatron, while Megatron is in his Megacron/Unitron mode, because I wanted to still see their animation models of Unicron and Megatron proper, as well as hear the voices of Frank Welker and John Noble. John Noble, who was in Fringe. There's a little tie there between Fringe and Prime with Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci, who produced Fringe and wrote the first couple of live-action movies, and were the executive producers of Prime. And it was great news when I heard that, because, let's face it, Michael Bay, I said this elsewhere, I'll say it again, Michael Bay is not a good storyteller. He's a great filmmaker, bad storyteller. If you give him a great script and contractually lock him into that script, he will tell a great story, but he has a knack of changing the story so much that it just... Well, I trust Kurtzman and Orci's vision, but not Michael Bay's vision. And of course, directors have a knack of generally changing little bits of the script. Sometimes actors improv on the set, voice actors sometimes improv and animate to that, and that's okay. But what Michael Bay adds to a script detracts, and I'll touch more on that later. It was great to see that pretty much all of the voice actors came back for this movie, especially Will Friedle. Friedle? I don't know, playing Bumblebee in Deadlock and Predacons Rising. He's mostly known for working in Boy Meets World and playing Terry McGinnis on Batman Beyond. And when I found out that the actor playing Bumblebee in Season 3 was going to be Will Friedle, I geeked out at that, because Batman is playing Bumblebee. Previously, Bumblebee was played by Dan Gilvezan? Gilvezan? I don't know how to say his name, forgive me. In G1, I can't remember the name of the guy who played him in his one line at the end of the 2007 movie, but it didn't matter because in Revenge of the Fallen, they took his voice away again. Now, at the end of Deadlock, he got his voice back, and I thought that was a great scene, and I was worried they would have some shit excuse at the beginning of this movie trying to bring back Silent Bumblebee. But they didn't. They kept his voice, and Bumblebee largely became the focal character in this movie. In Prime, in the live-action movies, he became one of the focal characters on the robot end. But in Prime, he was one of the secondary, maybe even tertiary characters. But in Predacons Rising, he takes on a leader role. And some of you might remember in the recent IDW comics, Bumblebee becomes kind of a leader in some of those stories. And that's kind of what happens here. A lot of people were surprised at that. I mean, of course, the decision is probably because of the character's popularity, because of the movies. But whereas fans seem to be overloaded by the movie Bumblebee and how many toys there are of him dominating the shelves, they did a really good job of using Bumblebee, especially at the tail end of Prime here. Side note with Bulkhead here, in the rest of Prime, they never really showed him having any inclination toward construction. And in his previous version, in Transformers Animated, he showed some... He was worried about himself because generally he smashes things. He's never good at doing anything else, especially not building something. So it was kind of nice here seeing Prime Bulkhead constructing something, because that's a little bit of depth to his character. The scene isn't very long, but it adds another little layer to his characterization. He reminds me here a little bit of a character from Rescue Bots. What's his name? The other big green guy. Boulder, who smashes things, but again, works in construction. Knockout is one of these characters that was a surprise for Prime, because generally the Knockout character wasn't very much used in previous versions, but they took a minor character and made him into something really special. Same thing with his friend. What was his name? The guy who ended up being turned into Silas's body. Breakdown. I liked his character a lot too. And you see here, Bumblebee is taunting, what's his name? Knockout. And when Optimus leaves the planet, he goes off. Bumblebee, having been promoted from Scout to Warrior, now takes over a lot of Prime's old duties. And now look at this here. Smokescreen and Ultra Magnus now being Scouts. Putting them in their place. I really liked what they did with the Smokescreen. It was kind of a Hot Rod characterization, but subverted. And previously, Smokescreen characters have been kind of unimpressive for me. G1 was alright. The Armada version was crap. And what I've always loved about Hot Rod was, well, mainly his characterization in the 80s movie. And a lot of people hated him for when he turned into Rodimus and tried to lead the Autobots. But I thought he was an okay leader. I preferred his characterization in his dangerous teenagery Hot Rod mode. And a lot of what he did in the recent comics, too. Kind of followed that scheme. And for a while, in Season 3, you really believed, spoilers I guess, but you really believed Smokescreen was going to become a Prime. But they subverted that and kept him as his kind of naive, running guns a-blazing, teenager-y self. And really, if anybody deserves to be a scout right now, it's Smokescreen. I love that they kept him as his younger version and didn't make him at the Prime. I'm glad they actually kept Optimus and gave him his super mode, his, what do you call it, his Wingblade mode. Wingblade mode that showed up previously in Unicron Trilogy, I guess. Animated, Revenge of the Fallen, a little bit in Dark of the Moon. Always loved Magnus's hook hand. It was kind of ugly and gnarly when he got his hand smashed there. What were these characters' names? One of these was named Skylynx. Can't remember the other one's name. Them, along with Predacon, are the only, I guess, living Predacons in this movie. The rest are the Terracon Predacons, Predacon zombies, I guess. The one thing that reason I wanted them to expand the time on this movie is something, I think something Magnus said at the beginning of this scene. Maybe it was Smokescreen. Look at that shit. Slow-mo there. Love that. Something Magnus said at the beginning of the scene about Smokescreen asked him, where's everybody else on the planet? And he says, there's many refugees scattered across the galaxy. We're still waiting for them to come in here and arrive. And I wish they had shown more of those characters, shown a little more characters scattered around the city, helping rebuild, aside from the Viacons. And that's generally a problem people had with Prime, was that they didn't show enough people, especially like humans, in Jasper, Nevada. People say it made the show seem empty. And I see where they're coming from there, although in the main part of the series, I didn't feel as much because we were focusing on a small set of characters. What's his name? Jeffrey Combs playing Ratchet here, known for working in The Reanimator live action, and as well as playing The Question in Justice League Unlimited. Wonderful role there. And Sumali Montano playing RC. She's currently working in Beware the Batman. And for a while in Season 1, a little bit in Season 2, the main focus of the show was on RC, and that surprised me. For a lot of time, it was the RC show. And it was kind of shocking when they started actually showing other characters, focusing on them. I was glad they did. But it was a huge chunk of episodes focusing all on RC, and they gave her a huge characterization, probably more so than any other character in the show. And a lot of people complain about that, but I thought it was alright. I mean, I wish they spread it out a little more and gave a more balanced focus on other characters. But, and RC is the most well-known female character in Transformers. But despite that, when you really think back on her role in other versions, she's not really been in all that much stuff. Her most prominent role before Prime has been in Generation 1. If you look at her in the movie and in each episode in Season 3 and 4, she doesn't do all that much. She mostly sits on the sidelines, and that really disappointed me. Rewatching G1, I noticed they didn't use her as much as they could have. And she showed up in Energon, I guess, a little bit in Transformers Animated, a little bit in Revenge of the Fallen, only to get shot in the head. So Prime is she was in IDW quite a bit as well. So Prime is the first version of Transformers to really use her character and develop her character, which I think does well for a female audience. Also, I just prefer it when something that's generally considered geared towards a male audience uses female characters, because a lot of the Transformers audience is female, which I feel like Transformers doesn't, I feel like Hub, Hasbro doesn't always acknowledge that in what they write into their stuff here. With Prime and Wheeljack being gone for a large portion of this movie, I felt it a little odd. I was expecting more Optimus in this movie, but again, this gave more opportunity for Bumblebee to come to the forefront, and he got quite a bit of characterization in Deadlock and Predacons Rising after getting his voice, and I liked that a lot, what they did with his character. in my personal hierarchy of my favorite versions of Transformers, as far as the cartoon, the show category, that aspect of the universe, of the franchise, my number 2 spot is a tie between G1, animated, and Prime. My number 1 spot being Beast Wars. And some people think it would be odd to have a tie between those three things, because they're very different versions, they have different aspects that make them good. A lot of people say, G1, that's, sure it's what started it, but it's not that great, it's crappy. And I understand where they're coming from there, but without G1, I would never have cared about Transformers, I would have seen the first 2 movies and called it quits. I would never have seen anything else from Transformers if I had not cared so much about that first season of G1. And now, comparing animated and Prime, a lot of people love Prime since it came out shortly after the Unicron trilogy, which is generally considered crap, and the first movie, which is generally considered crap, and had a lot of good writing. And it's the first version of Megatron that I really found to be scary and menacing, despite the rest of the show being largely comical and kid-friendly. And Prime is much more serious, but I can't figure out which one I prefer, especially when comparing Prime and animated. It's hard getting my thoughts together during this commentary, knowing that I need to keep going. I can't pause. I can't edit out my silences here for commentary, because that would very much mess up the flow of the commentary for if you're watching it with this. Prime and animated, one of them I felt had a better handling over what they did with the show. One of them had a better writing. I'd say overall, with the tone, the animation, the arcs here, Prime had much better handling, whereas animated had slightly better writing. But despite the quality of writing in animated, I feel like they didn't handle it very well, especially because it got canceled, and they cut out a lot of Sorry in Season 3. And Prime had a much better handling over the universe, especially since it was helmed by Kurtzman and Orsi, particularly when they were first leaking bits of information about this show before it aired. They said, Starscream will be the version that you're all used to, the cowardly, conniving, plotting, cold, calculating version of Starscream, who was occasionally funny, but ruthless. He stabbed Cliffjumper through the chest. But I love the version of Starscream here. A lot of people were put off at first by the different appearance of Starscream and who else? RC being blue instead of the usual pink. But I thought they were nice touches. They looked great, Now, Wheeljack was odd too, because he's always generally portrayed as the Scotty, the engineer mechanic, sometimes medic. But now they turned him into a wrecker, which is an odd choice, but the version that they wrote from here was really good. Drink break there. So Optimus is going out to find the Allspark in this, what's it called? A meteor field. I'm going to think of the real word for it later. I'm going to hate myself. And he hit it there, thousands of years earlier? And apparently these rocks never drifted apart, and they're all still tight. I love this little with a shot. Smoke screen there, sitting in Megatron's throne in Dark Mount. So the Allspark in Prime, it's never very much mentioned before, but in all the versions of the Allspark and the Matrix of leadership, there's the original Matrix, there's sparks in people's chests, there's the Well of Allsparks, there's the Allspark itself. A lot of time these objects have been kind of interchangeable, and very, very seldom has a version of Transformers actually given a real definition to any of these things. Well, the Spark has a real definition. Smokescreen stepping aside of the throne there is great. Oh shit, Megatron looks bigger here. His little Megatron Unitron face there looks kind of odd to me. I mean, of course they just added spikes to the top. It had to make it different somehow, but it just looks odd to me somehow. Fell into a little pothole there. Can't remember what I was talking about before the Megatron thing. Anyway, I had to look this up. Who did the voice here? Because I expect it's Frank Welker, but it sounds a little bit like John Noble thrown in there. And again, he has these energon weapons like from G1. I guess they look like the spikes he had in the tail end of season 1. I was talking about the sparks, wasn't I? Spark does generally have a pretty good definition, although it was slightly misused with the Matrix in the middle of the Beast Wars. But the whole thing about the Matrix, or the Allspark, or the Well of All Sparks, like which one brings them life, which one is the thing that defines leadership, and which one contains the memories of all of Primes, between the versions of Transformers is not very well defined, and even within, I mean, it changes, but even within a version of Transformers, it's often glossed over very briefly. So, when Optimus used the Matrix earlier in Prime, was that the memories of the Primes he used to log Unicron inside the Earth was that energy used to bring new Transformers to life, and then if that's the case, then what is the, what is this Allspark for? And they kind of just brought up the Allspark at the beginning of the movie, having never mentioned it before to my knowledge in the rest of Prime, and so it was kind of a plot device to get Optimus out of the way, but he comes back at the end, so it worked out, I guess. But I love that they kept the Nemesis in the movie. One thing that makes Prime stand out from the rest for me personally, as I said earlier in this episode, when I really became a fan was after Revenge of the Fallen came out. And at that time, the movie had just come out. The most recent animated show, called Transformers Animated, had ended shortly before. The comics at the time had already started a few years prior. So from when I started becoming a fan of Transformers, Prime is the first big thing to come out while I'm a fan. It's the first release that I've seen, the first big premiere, and Predacons Rising is the end of that. And sure, Dark of the Moon came out earlier, but the movie series had started before that, and the movie series is ending much longer after Dark of the Moon. So this is the end of the first big thing that I've ever had to experience in Transformers in real time while everyone else is experiencing it. The first new continuity. Well, along with games coming out, the novels and those handful of comics. And so this is the first time I've actually seen a Transformers show as it airs, episode by episode, week by week basis. And I much prefer watching, this is just a personal opinion, watching a TV show all straight through. I prefer to have it watch an entire season all at once, or even better, an entire series all at once. And with all the other Transformers shows, I got to do that. I got to watch the entire series and however much time I wanted. And, something like Beast Machines aired across 2 seasons, but I watched it in maybe 4 days. And so I think watching something all close together, when you get to feel the story arcs all close together, improves the quality of a show. And that's probably why I feel like it's tied with animated and G1, because I had these big gaps in between the episodes, and sure, everybody else did. But I feel like everyone else's own personal favorite way of watching a show is different than mine. So after Predacons Rising, I think I'll take some time to watch the entire series all the way through with one straight shot, as much as I have time for. I'll probably think it's much better after that. A lot of people, popular as the movies are, a lot of people hate the movies. And even those who love the movies, who enjoy the movies, and don't get me wrong, I do enjoy the movies, but they're not that great. Even people who do enjoy the movies, who have heard about Prime and gone to see Prime, have enjoyed it immensely. Some people even more so than the movies. In the last couple of years, since Prime has started airing, I've seen a lot more, merch out in the world. People's decals and stickers, people's t-shirts. When I wear one of my t-shirts out in the world, side note, I have about 21, 22 t-shirts with Transformers on them. I've seen a lot more people with those, and when I wear one of my shirts, people start talking to me about Transformers. And I love that. There's a much bigger general cultural consciousness about this show than there has been with any other version, I feel like. Even Generation 1. And even a lot of kids love this show. And sure, they started, what was it called? Rescue Bots, more aimed at little kids. And that show was fun. Although, I have seen a lot of little kids that like Prime. And a lot of people say, it's too dark for kids to handle, but I grew up watching Batman the Animated Series, which is one of the darkest things I've seen from TV. And I believe kids should, age 4 or 5, should be allowed, if they want to watch something like Prime with the level of maturity of Prime. And of course, again, I do prefer Beast Wars over Prime. But again, if you're looking for something along the lines of Generation 1 with the same core cast of Autobot Decepticon characters, Prime is an excellent version, and it's done wonders for the Transformers franchise. Not to mention the comics, of course. I just love the fact that they got Peter Cullen back for so much in recent Transformers years. In Beast Wars, of course, they had Gary Chalk, who carried over into Beast Machines and the Unicron trilogy. In Robots in Disguise, forgive me, I can't remember his name. In animated, it was David Kaye, and then in these movies, they had Peter Cullen. In the video games, they had Peter Cullen. In Prime and Rescue Bots, they got Peter Cullen back. He's come back in a big bad way, and it's always recognizable as Optimus's voice. If you go back and listen to Prime or the movies or Generation 1, they all sound a little bit different, like he reinvents it every time, or they treat it differently, mixing every time, but it's still recognizably Prime. The voice, he sounds like he can really command a room, and especially when you hear interviews with him, it's not just some gig for him for the last several years. You can tell how much he cares about the character. And there's a line a lot of people say is very corny from Generation 1. The line, was it? The Optimus says, hold on to your dreams. The future is built on dreams. Something like that. Someone asked him in an interview what his favorite line is, and he said that. Because it resonated with him. And however corny you think it sounds, it's true. So Magnus is laying here on the table, looking kind of gray, reminiscent of Optimus from the animated movie. Bulkhead in here is played by Kevin Michael Richardson, who has been in every cartoon since the beginning of time. If you've ever watched any cartoon show, you've heard Kevin Michael Richardson's voice. It's very recognizable when he wants it to be. And I don't remember who played Bulkhead in animated, but Kevin Michael Richardson did a great job of making Bulkhead into a much more serious character. Still jovial. He still has fun when he wants to be, but he's much more intelligent, more serious than the version shown in animated, and miles beyond the version shown in Energon. But we're not going to talk about that right now. Predacons in for some shit. Gonna get his ass beaten. One thing about Predacons Rising that really stands out to me is the total lack of human characters. There were human characters in Prime, several, and some of the best uses of human characters in the Transformers multiverse. So it was shocking. I mean, it worked for the story, but it was kind of shocking that they didn't put any humans in there at all. There weren't any, as far as I know, any human characters in the Cybertron games, and aside from that, the closest we've come to something like this is beast machines. But even then, there's a brief glimpse back to Earth, showing the pre-humans. And of course, in Beast Wars, there are the pre-humans shown there. A lot of controversy was surrounding the revelation back in Season 1 that Unicron was Earth. Although, well, I guess it's probably because he can't transform into his full Unicron mode. He can only use these little dirt puppets, or this astral version of Unicron. Well, I guess it works because if Primus were to transform from Cybertron into his robot mode, he destroys Cybertron, which he, of course, would not want. If Unicron transforms from Earth into robot mode, he kills all of us. So that way, it kind of levels the playing field. We don't have these gigantic characters like we had back in Cybertron, the series. Cybertron is two massive players going at each other. It kind of keeps the playing field level to where it's just Autobots, Decepticons, and Predacons, all the Cybertronians, if you will. Also, I guess in a way it kind of caused a bit of controversy in a religious way because of what it says about the beginning of Earth, but we're not going to worry about that. I thought what they did with Unicron, the way they handled him here in this astral version and in the little dirt puppet version, handled him pretty well. He was less powerful. It's kind of the Superman problem. If you make a character who is extremely powerful, can kill entire planets, and how do you combat that, aside from, the Matrix? And by making him less powerful here, giving him more challenges to overcome than he had in the animated movie or in the Unicron trilogy, or even back in Season 1 of Prime, I felt like it gave him more, made him more of a character, really, despite having that little internal struggle with Megatron there. I love Shockwave in this series. He was great and animated, of course, in G1. I felt like they did him justice in Prime, especially having him fight with Starscream. In varying degrees, versions of Starscream, Shockwave, and Soundwave have always been vying for position in the Decepticons. Starscream, of course, generally wants to actively kill Megatron and take over. Soundwave generally will try to help Megatron in any way he can to keep Megatron in leadership, but if Megatron dies, Soundwave feels like he should take over. Shockwave, I feel like generally he won't try to take over, but if something does happen to Megatron, he won't try to help him, or rather, just take over when the opportunity presents itself. But Soundwave has been much more loyal in Prime, and maybe I'm forgetting something from Deadlock, but I can't remember what happened to Soundwave after he wiped his memory banks in captivity with the Autobots. He is completely absent from Predacons Rising, and I can't tell why. I'm probably going to go back and watch Deadlock and kick myself for saying all this. His total absence from this movie kind of bothers me. Again, the movie should have been expanded to show more of what happened to Soundwave. And I would have liked it if they somehow touched on Arachnid. And last time we saw her, she was on Earth's moon, stranded with all of the Insecticons. Insectazombies? I guess she's Terracon now. She's some kind of a Deceptizombie. Who was she played by? I should have pulled this up. She's played by the lovely woman who played Zoe on Firefly. It's always good to see more Firefly actors getting into more shows, into more voice acting. A lot of them were in Justice League Unlimited. Ron Glass was recently in the first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is pretty good, by the way. Also, I wish they had more living Predacons to actually, rise. To talk about Predacons Rising, it doesn't have a whole lot to do with the story. There's Unicron's Predaterracon army near the end, but that's not a huge section of the story. it was cool that they used that army, undead army, but I just feel like they could have chosen a better title, a more all-encompassing representation of the story. Again, do away with that Beast Wars subtitle, interstitial, whatever you want to call it. I feel really bad for Predaking, honestly. Like, he feels so alone, and then these two, I guess, brothers of his show up, and for a while they don't even want to speak to him, and then he finds this pile of dead bodies. Man, imagine you're the last human, and you find this pile of dead humans. That'd fuck with your brain, I think. One thing that kind of was interesting for me whenever they were first leaking announcements about Prime was some of the names of the human characters. They were leaking, Jack Darby and Agent Fowler, and that kind of made me snicker a little bit. Snicker, is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, those names being used in the Transformers universe, the names Darby and Fowler, because I have people in my family named Darby and Fowler. I have that in my blood, and I just felt like that was a nice personal nod to myself from the producers, although probably wasn't. A lot of people have complained about every Terrorcon being a griffin. I didn't notice it the first time I watched it. In the crowd shots and the army scenes, it looked like a fairly diverse group of different types of Terrorcons, Predacons in the army. And of course, Starscream runs like a coward, like a little bitch. In all seriousness, Starscream's always been one of my favorite characters in all versions. Even in the Unicron trilogy, he was one of the, which has a lot of shit to it. He's always been one of the best parts of those shows in every version that he shows up in. And Prime really did him justice. His character design is very different from before. But as the producer said, he is the classic Starscream that we're getting back to, quite unlike his version in the movies. Now that I look back on it, these Predacons do kind of all look alike. Well, I didn't notice it until it was pointed out to me. I mean, I like what they did. They had each one kind of has its own different damage to it, its own kind of decay and rotting bone structure. When they were first leaking information for Prime, they said each character was going to have like 4 or 5 different stages of damage level. And I like that, putting a lot of detail into the show, and I think that it showed through with the Predacons especially. And here they are coming over the ridge. See this big crowd shot. Some of their faces look kind of like, what's his name? Salacious Crumb from Return of the Jedi. And little King Megatron riding a Predacon. Megatron, Unitron. Is that what Smokescreen said? I need a drink. I really hope this doesn't turn out like crap. It was nice that I like at the end of Deadlock how Ratchet chose to stay behind, stay with the kids, and kind of still be friends with them. And he never really had his own human attached to him the way RC was attached to Jack and Bulkhead to Miko and Bumblebee to Raph. I mean, I guess Ratchet was kind of close to Raph in a way. But he had, probably to June as well. But he had no human attachment of his own. And so by him remaining behind, operating the space bridge and being a liaison between Cybertron and Earth, I felt like that kept a good sense of, I don't know what the word is. You know, when a series ends, but you can tell the characters are still there. They're still, I don't know, I always love it when a series of TV show, movies, books, comics, whatever, ends, and you still have the sense that all the characters are still friends. There's still a big sense of camaraderie, and there's still a huge possibility that they're going to see each other on a regular basis. For some reason, that always feels right to me. It makes me feel better about a series ending. And Ratchet staying behind, them still having communication with Earth. This feels right to me. And of course, the majority of them have to go back to Cybertron to help rebuild and be there when more refugees come and need a place to stay, need a place to chill. someone to talk to at least. Get the internet working again. Get a movie theater set up. Anyway. And Smokescreen, a callback to what he did to Knock Out. And I thought it was a really ballsy move to just cut out the humans entirely from Predacons Rising. And of course, we see Ratchet come through the space bridge, and we know that he's still officially stationed, except for the duration of the movie, still stationed on Earth, near Jasper, Nevada. We know that if any of the characters want to go between the space bridge and see each other and hang out, they can still do that if they want to. I just love that they put in that little touch at the end of Deadlock instead of just, well, bye. Kind of reminds me of the gap between Season 2 of Generation 1 and the animated movie. How they can still go between Earth and Cybertron, and there's still Transformers working on Earth. There's still humans working on Cybertron. It's like a interspecies army, interspecies NASA. I feel like that's kind of the era they're going for in this movie, is that gap when they're first setting up those kinds of things. And who knows, if they do end up, the next animated event being a continuation of Prime, if they show that the Earth in general is now aware of these aliens, and whether or not happens, whether or not they will accept more people aside from Agent Fowler to be able to work with them in some capacity in the army. I would like it if they did show that, but right now it seems to be kind of that interim period. And honestly, I'm glad they had this little epilogue. I wouldn't call this an end to Prime. It feels very much like an epilogue to Prime, because, oh, bitch slapped. Because Deadlock felt like a perfect ending to Prime. And again, I'm glad they had this movie as an epilogue, but Prime, the end of Prime, felt so good. It just gave me chills at the ending of it. That turnaround, that look Optimus gives, and the score throughout the entire ending. And the ending has a lot of hope to it. And, again, a lot of unanswered questions that they had to address here in the movie. But the notion they will rebuild that beautiful sky shot, the day shot of Cybertron, whereas previously we'd only seen Cybertron in night when Jack and RC went there, and in other scenes on Cybertron during Prime. It was much more hopeful. It was a dawn. It was hope for the future. And Predacons Rising does not detract from that. But again, Predacons Rising would have been much better end instead of an epilogue if it had a little more room, a little bit more room for the characters to breathe. Again, a little bit of a scene with Soundwave, Laserbeak, Arachnid. Forgive me for not being very refreshed here, but I can't remember whether or not Silas died a few episodes back, but I always loved what they did with him. Kind of a headmaster subverted, having him controlling, what was his name? Breakdown's body. And I loved Breakdown's character before he died, and I was sad to see him go, but when they harvested his body and put Silas inside of him, I thought that was a great little touch. How long does it take them to get to that hole? Run! I mean, I know you're just bones, but dude, there's a ship flying at you. Run! And Megatron wonders why they're attacking him. You're giving them time, dude. There you go. A little more strategy there. That doesn't look good for the Autobots there. I love them taking the ship, a ragged, nasty-looking Nemesis, and flying it into enemy territory. It reminds me of the end of Serenity with the ship covered in blood and skulls, flying through Reaver territory. And boom! Oh, who is that? Is it Optimus? Did he come back to help them? Is he flying around helping them fight? Oh shit! It's the living Predacons. Whose side are they on? We don't know. Are they going to turn around and kill the Autobots? Maybe. Why can't they just get along? Why can't the Predacons and Autobots just get along? I mean, Bumblebee did a pretty good job there earlier when he faked that stick business. Why can't everybody just settle down? Give her a piece of land, Divvy it up a little bit. try to get things back to the way they were. I mean, they're dangerous, I guess, but they're sentient. They can talk to them. They're not just crazy wild animals. Meet Predaking King. But I mean, the story progression makes sense. They're pissed at Megatron. The living ones are pissed at Megatron for dishonoring their dead. And see, that shows they're complex characters. They're not just like, okay, whatever, rebury the dead, it's fine. It's not just zombies. I mean, think about like Walking Dead, other zombie stories. It's not just humans being upset because humans are being zombified. It's because they're attacking humans. But the three living Predacons are actually offended at the fact that they have dishonored and desecrated the massive burial ground, and it gives them a huge sense of honor that you don't generally find in something like the dumber versions of the Predacons or the dumber versions of the Dinobots. The little smirk on Starscream's face, the essence of the character. Well, you wrecked your ship, and your ship's fucked up. Now what are you gonna do? You got this massive flying storm of bees or shit flying at you. Oh. It looks like the living Predacons are on the Autobot side. I mean, common goal, enemy of my enemy, and all that business. What is this little chest logo that Merged Unicron has there? It's like a spike. What is that? Is that Moon? Are those I guess the two moons of Cybertron, Moonbase 1, Moonbase 2. Predaking always becomes so much bigger when he transforms into beast mode. That looks scary. So I guess this pit, the Well of All Sparks, is the hole that they shot down at the end of Deadlock to reignite Vector Sigma, reigniting Primus's spark, I guess. Keeping him dormant, but reigniting him to try to rebuild the planet. I think it was Ratchet who asked Optimus, which area do we rebuild? Do we shoot this shit down onto Icon? Which city do we use? And you shouldn't just use it on one city, you use it on the core of the planet, reignite the planet's resources. Smart move by Prime. So now what's your plan? B, just fight Merged Unicron there? What, hoping that the Predacons get to the zombies in time? There we go. Cavalry. What was the name of the Wheeljack's ship? I can't remember. I love Knockout deciding to switch sides to the winning team. And he meant it. Partly cowardly, but he meant it there. Oh yeah, he got the Allspark thing. Floaty, spiky thing. One of the biggest things I loved about Prime was these climactic encounter scenes that Optimus was always involved in. Always got me excited, always like screaming, cheering for Optimus. You can tell he's gonna go kick some ass. With a beady motorcycle. Beat his ass, Prime. He doesn't like you. What's your plan, Optimus? I need another drink. Talking like this for so long. Wearing my mouth out. All in one sitting. And just having to do it alone here. Oh, that looks painful. Oh, shit. So what, is that his consciousness being shocked and not his body? If so, how's he do that? Oh, damn. Energon spikes. That was like it hurt. I always love things like this, like calling back to the original 3-part episode of Generation 1. Look at this crowd shot. All these Predacons flying, Terracons, I guess, flying down the well. Oh, damn. I mean, look at the detail and animation in the flying crowd shot there. Who's holding him back here? Oh, it's Bumblebee with that magnet thing. Damn, Bumblebee is showing some balls here. In the last several versions of Transformers, they usually show that Bumblebee's voice was taken out by Megatron. And here, Beak is so damn ballsy towards Megatron. And throughout all of Prime, actually. Remember that scene when Megatron was pinned down and Jack had the opportunity to drill into his face just to tear his head apart and kill him? And chooses not to, because that's not what Optimus would have done. I feel like Bumblebee would have taken a different route at that point. I mean, he stabbed him through the chest in the end of Deadlock. And generally heroes, Batman, Superman, etc., don't like to kill people. Oh, damn, took out the wing blade. But in Transformers, it's a war, and you see characters that are willing to kill people for, basically for war crimes, like Bumblebee killing Megatron. It's largely justifiable. He was about to kill Optimus. He essentially killed Bumblebee in the scene before. It shows a ballsier form of character there, in some ways. Different moral values there. Different. Everyone says like Optimus is John Wayne or Optimus is Clint Eastwood or whatever. He's Dirty Harry in the movies, but he's not any of those characters. Optimus and Bumblebee are both uniquely their own types of characters, their own sets of morals. You can't compare them to anyone else, I feel. Oh, damn. Dust to dust, I guess. Cosmic dust. Turning the Allspark back to the center. Back to the spark of Primus. And somehow this little vacuum thing sucked Unicron into it. And I'm mistaken. The Allspark is not inside of it there. Oh, it was Unicron being sucked out of his body that killed all of the Predacons. Okay. Boom. Now here's one scene where I really want there to be some expansion. One of my callbacks to the script for the live-action movies. The novelization of Dark of the Moon shows a different ending. Instead of Megatron calling for a truce and Optimus killing him, which is kind of cool and ballsy for action in the movie, but kind of un-Optimus-like, I feel like. Instead, in the novelization, Optimus accepts the truce. The Decepticons go back to Cybertron and peace is had for the time being. I haven't read the book, but that's what people who have read it have posted online. So, we have not read the script for Dark of the Moon, the original shooting script written by Aaron Kruger, although I wish it was available to read, because I'd like to see which version he actually wrote, to see if that end in the novelization is actually from the script, because of Michael Bay's tendency to change things quite a bit. And in the end of Predacons Rising here, we actually see Megatron again call for a truce, except this time it's not like, hey, we should have a truce, yeah. It's actually, he really means it. He actually has a change of heart. He sees what it's like to be oppressed. Oh, I love this moment with Starscream. Anyway, Megatron really, genuinely sees what it's like to be oppressed, and he has an honest change of heart. But after being a tyrant for thousands, maybe millions of years, and now I accept the fact that he changes, but I feel like Megatron is too prideful to just openly admit so suddenly, after being released from his captivity, just announce, I am now no longer your enemy. I will not wage war against the Autobots. I want to just go live my life in peace now. I don't think he would announce that. I wanted a little more there, a little expansion there. Maybe Starscream comes by and says, okay, now, with your awesome armor, we can really kick some ass. We'll go kill Optimus or something. And Megatron says, no, not now. Starscream says, well, why not? He's right there. And Megatron punches him. He's like, silence, you fool, or you're an idiot, Starscream. Or something along those lines. And maybe show him off in his own little lair later, effectively contemplating near the end of the movie. Somehow basically, I guess it gets down to show, don't tell. Basically, he says, I have seen what it's like to be oppressed. I like the line, I have seen what it's like to be oppressed. Because I don't really know a way that could have shown that, but I just wish they had shown his reluctancy to attack, and maybe Starscream tries to attack the Autobots, although that's not very cowardly, not very much like Starscream. Maybe Megatron holds him back, or he's just like, let's retreat, go back, regroup, go back to Kaon, go back to my own little personal statue, huddle up, rethink our lives, maybe work at a Cinnabon. But, I accept his change of heart. I think that shows a lot of guts, a lot of gusto inside of Megatron. And I like that his characterization there at the ending. I just wish they had expanded it a little more, that and other things. And now the other thing I have some trouble with, I wish it had more expansion, is Optimus' decision at the end here. And this is a great scene, similar to the end of Deadlock. It's not as good as the end of Deadlock, but it gives me chills similar to the end of Deadlock. Take a drink every time I said Deadlock. I just have a problem. I wish they expanded it because Optimus's spiel is, okay, I put the Allspark inside my own spark when with the Matrix, which he previously emptied and then Jack refilled for him. So inside, apparently the Matrix can hold the Matrix itself, the memories of the past primes, and Optimus's spark, the current holder of the Matrix, their spark, in there, so that later, when the next generation gets it, they will have that person's memories added to the Matrix. Now here, that shot coming out of the well of the, I don't know, the memories of the primes coming out, and the crowd in the bottom, looks like the Hasbro logo to me. And the little spark at the end, it says, "This is just another transformation." That's a good line, but it seems a little bit contrived. The thing about the Matrix can only hold the Matrix, my own spark, and the Allspark being added to it is so much so that they cannot be separated. Of course, everything involved with the nature of Cybertronians has to be some kind of pseudoscience, some kind of sci-fi. Writers: Dwayne Capizzi, Marcia Griffin, and Stephen Melching. Directors: Vinton Hughes, Scooter Tidwell, and Todd Waterman. Brian Tyler, that was the composer. I just want to give a shout out to all the people who worked on this movie here. Back to the ending, though. It seemed like it was jammed in there really fast. I wish they had said something about it earlier in the movie, preferably earlier in the series. I forgot to give a shout out to Steve Blum playing Starscream. Also played Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop. Michael Ironside, Nolan North, David Sobolov. Anyway, yeah, I just wish they had addressed the bit about the Allspark earlier, saying that it could not be separated from the Matrix. But that little bit of light that flickers in front of us at the end, right before the credits, notice that, well, Optimus does definitely sacrifice himself. He sacrifices his life. But notice he doesn't die. He's not, I don't think he's dead. He went inside the spark of Primus, inside the well of Allsparks, taking the Allspark, the Matrix, and his own spark with him. I feel like all those lights are the previous memories of Primes, and the one we see at the end is Optimus. He didn't die. His spark was not extinguished. He's one, literally, as I believe his writer said, one with the Matrix. He's still alive. He's out there. He's still in Cybertron. He just gave up so much to be there. He says this is the end of the Age of Primes. So we can't send the Matrix, physically send it back for, I don't know, Bumblebee or whoever, Magnus, Smokescreen, whoever, to take over as the next Prime. They can't reforge a new one. They can't. Well, with this newly reignited spark of Primus, the well of all sparks, I assume there must be some way it could make a new Matrix, maybe recharge the Forge of Soulless Prime, make a new Matrix of Leadership. But that's for them to know and us to find out. Hopefully, if they keep these associated comics going, or the novels and the video games, and hopefully this upcoming animated event is a continuation of the same continuity. Hopefully we'll find out exactly what will happen after that. Another shout out, Aaron Archer, Andy Schmidt. All in all, again, I wish it had been longer and given more breathing room. And Prime as a whole, I very much enjoyed it. And again, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more had I seen all the episodes together, all at once, in a close, all in a straight shot. But given what we had, given what we saw, I'm always going to look back on Prime with fond memories. I enjoyed this show immensely. And this movie was a great ending. As I said, epilogue. Personally, I think Deadlock was a much better ending, but Predacons Rising doesn't hurt. I think it's impressive that they chose to give it a movie, and I remember hearing news a while back, they tried to actually make this into a, what's it called? They wanted to put this in theaters, the producers did, but I guess Hasbro didn't go that route. For a short period of time, the My Little Pony movie, Equestria Girls, was in theaters, in select theaters, for a short time. So I don't know why they did not do the same with Predacons Rising, but no matter. It's on TV, it's on DVD, It's on digital download, where it will live forever. Because, of course, as we all know, theatrical runs are temporary. DVD, Blu-ray, and digital versions are where the majority of people will see movies. So at least they got it put out on DVD really fast, and I assume they will soon put it on Netflix Watch Instantly. So I'm hoping you will give me a little bit of feedback. Tell me if you agreed with some of my thoughts in the movie. If you did not agree with some of them, if you have anything you wish I had added or talked about, please post it in the blog page for this episode or on Facebook. Tweet me. Just give me your thoughts. If you hated this commentary, please tell me why. And basically, I think that'll be it for this commentary. This has been an excerpt from Prime On Demand, a Transformers podcast. For full episodes, go to iTunes, Stitcher, or primeondemand.com.